Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and today I want to give you guys a review thus far of my impressions for Quicksilver, our new native tier 2 speed character. But before we get into that, I asked you guys when I introed the teasers for Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, Wando and Pietra, that I was going to give out a special reward to whoever could guess the leaderships and the kind of status or obtainability and class of these two new heroes, this brother and sister duo. We now know that they are both native tier 2 characters, neither of them are paywall, and that Wando or Wanda is blast and Petro is speed, and that he gives an all speed, all dodge buff, and she gives an energy attack buff. While a lot of you had variations on this and some of you were close, I have to choose the answer that was given to me the earliest, not the most recent, because they had the least amount of information to go on. And I also didn't want to choose a comment that was edited, because it could have been edited post update, and then that invalidates the whole contest. So congratulations to Nimrod98. You're not such a Nimrod after all, bro. Nailed the native tier 2, nailed everything for Wanda, and nailed almost everything for Quicksilver. Just missing that all speed buff, but everything else is perfect. So bro, or girl, I guess, your reward is hit me up with a YouTube message. Tell me what your in-game name is, if it's Nimrod98 or something else, and send me a friend request in the game, and I will forever have you on my friends list. I know it's not much of a reward, but it's yours. Anyways, moving on to the review. Who do we have here but Quicksilver? Petro Maximoff, our first native tier 2 speed, and he lives up to that billing. He is a monster with insane damage and a very important passive that makes him a threat to any character in the game. In addition, he has a very strong type advantage against the likes of Doctor Strange, Jean Grey, his sister, Cable, and other dominant blast types like Sharon Rogers that make him instantly relevant in almost every single game mode. The only thing that he's missing is the fact that he doesn't have a uniform yet, and he's not a villain in any way, but that could very easily change with an Age of Ultron uniform or something else down the road. So he's almost the complete package, and he's got the best in-game animation of all time with that hot dog pose. The cons of the character are that being he's a native tier 2, he's going to cost you a lot of gold and resources to rank up. It is black antimatter and chaos nordstone, so you don't have to worry about feathers or crystals, but it is going to cost you north of 40 million gold, probably around 60 million gold. In addition, he is missing both skill cooldown and a lot of crit damage on his gear natively. He's a bit lower than the likes of, let's say, Miguel, if we're going to compare speed types, so he is going to need a bit of extra love from your Obelisk and from your Uru to make up those numbers if you want to perform at the very top for this speed devil. As far as his skills go, I will give you a rough rotation of what I found worked best for Extreme Alliance Battle in a minute, but I do want to spend a little bit of time to highlight Unstoppable Madness. Now this is the 4-star passive that was highlighted in my patch note video for all 3 of the new characters, but it's one that's especially relevant for Quicksilver. Now 70% chance to pierce basically all types of effects whenever he's dealing damage. So every individual hit has a 70% chance to pierce. That's a really important distinction to make, especially for a character like Quicksilver, because as you will see from gameplay footage, his 5th skill especially, but also his 2nd skill and others have multiple hits. He can rack up 50, 60, 70 hits in a hurry. And so you have so many different chances to get that pierce off that characters are not safe with any sort of protection other than healing or iframes or just resurrecting because you already killed them fast enough. In addition, his 5th skill, Days of Thunder, has a kind of effect that lasts a very long time. I can't remember what the word is, but anyways, it's residual. The damage keeps on going even if Quicksilver dies. It's very much like Jean Grey's 5th skill, where the fire tornadoes keep spinning. It kind of lingers, the lingering damage. So I've had my Quicksilver die in timeline to Jean Grey, and then his 5th skill, which he had just cast, kills her anyway, which is amazing. As far as prioritizing his skills, yes, his third skill does have a dodge bump with a damage bump with a heal. I think that the damage bump does override his ISO set as it has in the past for Shang-Chi, as it still does for Kid Kaiju, which is unfortunate that Netmarble still hasn't fixed this. It's a very embarrassing bug that shouldn't be in the game. For that reason, I don't recommend giving him awakened ISOs. Just give him the 6-star one so that you can hit that, percentage for the skills, and don't worry about going from 20% to 40% because it's not really going to make a big enough difference. In addition, 20% versus 30%, you're getting a bigger bonus here, and we'll talk about why the third skill is both good and bad in a second. If you're just looking for the quick and dirty skill rotation, it's a bit complicated, but it's similar to Jean if you've played as her or watched other people do it. You start with the 5th skill, but it's only to proc his damage boost if you have that on an Obelisk. So you 5 cancel into 4 as soon as you see the Obelisk proc. Then you let the 4 run its full course. Then you use the 2nd skill, which you can cancel very quickly, but you're using it because it creates tornadoes that will also linger and deal residual damage over time. And then you move into the 3rd skill because the 1st skill does not have an iframe. The 3rd skill has kind of in between iframes, and then you cancel the 3rd skill as soon as you see the 5th skill because you want that 5th skill up all the time. You use the 5th skill aggressively to try and trigger the proc on your damage Obelisk. For the 4th skill, you want it to land on the 4th skill because it has the most damage overall, that 4th skill. That is for Extreme Alliance Battle. Of course, if you wanted to have a rotation that's different for a different scenario, that's totally up to you. All 5 of his skills animate well. They have lots of movement in them, so even though they're not iframes, especially 1, 2, and 3 are not iframes, they're only partial iframes, it still provides him with a lot of defensive maneuverability because he's not in one place for more than like a half second, and it really stays true to the character. I love his skills overall. As far as his gear, we don't really have anything much to talk about anymore because Netmarble normalized all of this, but I do want to point out that he doesn't have a lot of crit damage. He only has it as a secondary stat here for 600, and then here he has no crit damage. He only has movement speed, and he's also missing skill cooldown, and he's got a low ignore defense if I'm going to nitpick a little bit more, which means that he's going to need a lot of help from you, especially if your cards are not, fantastic. So even looking on my details page, with an aggressively statted Obelisk with very good 5-star Uru, I'm still missing the cap slightly, but still missing the cap on ignore defense, cooldown, and I've got a pretty low crit damage compared to what it should be. It should probably be north of 180 if I'm really trying to get the best scores possible. But these stats are pretty good, and I'm happy at least with the crit rate. As far as the Uru on his gear go, if you want to set him up offensively, of course you want to go with 2 physical attack Urus on the first 2 slots of all 4 gears. Then you should go first for crit damage because, as I said, he is missing it as a native stat on his gear. It's only a secondary native stat. He does have a lot more native crit rate than crit damage. And then the last slot is going to be left up to probably ignore defense or some crit rate if you have that extra opportunity like I do for some of his skills. As far as an Obelisk goes, I think something like this is very close to optimal. You definitely want crit rate, you definitely want crit damage if you can get it, and then you want the highest proc possible if you are aiming to use him in Speed Extreme Alliance Battle. That is where I'm assuming a lot of people are going to be curious because he is the new reigning champion ahead of Spider-Man 2099, Kid Kaiju, and everybody else. He just blows them all away, leaves them eating his hot dog dust. Now, if you don't want to go offensive for Quicksilver, that's fine as well. He does benefit from max HP because he has that heal on his 3rd skill, which is 10% of his max. So a defensive Obelisk that starts with max HP is fantastic. You could also start with a base of dodge because he does have that guaranteed dodge on his tier 2 of 45%, which is insane, and he has some pretty decent native dodge. You can see I'm at 40% already without any help from his Uru or his Obelisk, so you could very easily cap this just with your Obelisk and not have to waste Uru or gear 4th rolls on it, which is fantastic. So max HP, dodge, and then of course invincibility is still the best defensive option for an Obelisk. It's becoming less important with the likes of these characters, Quicksilver, Scarlet Witch, Jean Grey's 5th skill, Cable, they all ignore these Obelisk procs completely. In addition to all the characters that can strip it away, like Thanos' 1st skill, Reflect from characters, Doctor Strange's 2nd skill, etc. But that would be the optimal setup for defense if you wanted to go there. As far as ISO 8 sets go, he does have a very high native attack speed as well, so I don't particularly like suggesting Power of Angry Hulk. I think the only perfect set for him would be, unfortunately, the one that no one wants to bother rolling, Overdrive, or Iverdrevo if you pronounce it backwards, because you're trying to create a satanic ritual situation so you can actually roll this stupid ISO 8 set. I said it. I still haven't rolled it. Otherwise, you could go defensive with something like, Binary Power or Drastic Density, but I just don't see the need for a shield, an HP shield, Obelisk, or ISO set. The reason for that is Quicksilver has so many iframes that he's gonna waste that proc when it triggers, because he's gonna be iframing in between. So the Obelisk with the invincibility helps him from getting two-shotted from something like the activation of Jean Grey's 4th skill, but other than that, you're not going to get much value out of a defensive ISO 8 set, so I do recommend going for an offensive one, if only for the base stats that you get. Of course, I value, in this case, Overdrive over Power of Angry Hulk, because the attack speed is less necessary, less needed for this character, but the crit damage is absolutely valuable. An extra 8% crit damage would really go a long way for me, especially because he's only sitting at 170. That would put me much closer to the cap. Of course, you cannot farm this character traditionally in missions. You're going to have to go into the world boss for him. Everyone in the game, as long as you started the game before the update or just after the update, will have 5 bios of Quicksilver by default. So once you finish his mission, which I already did because I paid crystals for it, but if you're still doing it the old-fashioned way, that's great, and I applaud you for having patience. You will then unlock his special world boss mission. Just got to beat him 5 times, which isn't very difficult. He's a mix between Proxima and Infinite Thanos, as I've stated before. And then you'll be able to unlock him. And then you'll just need 4,400 black antimatter, 1,350 Chaos Nordstones, and between 50 and 60 million gold. No biggie, right? Lastly, I want to leave you guys with my most successful Extreme Alliance battle run. I got 306,000, spoiler alert, but I definitely think that I can do better than that. I can probably score close to 350,000 once I get the skill rotation down perfectly and I'm comfortable chaining through his skills, not getting hit, not getting guard broken. I don't think he needs guard break, by the way. And, hitting those damage procs as often as possible. I know that there are people out there who can score, 400,000 with Quicksilver, but I think if you're scoring at least 300,000, you should be happy with your results. And if it's less, it's okay. You've just got something to work towards and look forward to. I don't know what kind of rotation this is. But it's working. Alright, not bad. 305. So let me know what you guys think of Quicksilver. If this video helped you build him or helped you decide to get him in the first place, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you're on top of all these videos on YouTube. And of course, if you like what you see, I hope to see you again tomorrow. Take care.